Perfect.
Yeah, we can
Hi,
hear you.
everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Night Speaker Series meeting. Before we begin, I have an item to take care of. This meeting has an ASL interpreter, and I will now try to spotlight her screen for you. There we go. To keep her video highlighted, use the pin feature. To turn the feature on, click the dots on her video and choose Pin Video on a PC or a Mac. If you have a smartphone or tablet, double-click their video to pin it. Okay. Welcome to the Saturday Speaker Series of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm an alcoholic, a member of the Hand of AA group in Pembroke, Ontario, and my name and problem is Jane. It's customary to open our meeting with a moment of silence, followed by the Serenity Prayer. May we have that moment now, please? Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Alcoholics Anonymous Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I'm to introduce myself and briefly qualify, so settle back, take a break. No, I'm just kidding, I'll make it brief. I thought about this afternoon. How do I qualify to chair this meeting? I was born restless, irritable, and discontent and different than everyone else and felt that way my entire life and tried to be a round peg in a square hole forever until I found alcohol, which was the solution for that restless, irritable, and discontent. And alcohol worked for me. It was a perfect solution for a very long time, and then it turned on me, and alcohol took me. And as much as I tried and promised and really meant it, that I was not going to drink, or I was going to try to control my drinking. It was my great obsession that I would be able to drink like a normal person and be normal. I never could do that until I found my way to Alcoholics Anonymous and read in the big book that I am bodily and mentally different from everyone else. And I had to come to accept that and accept the fact that I cannot drink alcohol safely. And I do that one day at a time by being with you people, working a 12-step program and doing service to the best of my ability. And with that, I will qualify. Thank you. Okay, we have some readings to do, and tonight I've asked my friend Kelly to do the 12 steps. If I can find her.
Hi, my name's Kelly and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Kelly.
From Pembroke. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. One moment. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thank you. Sorry about that. The phone call came through.
Great job. We also have 12 traditions, and tonight I've asked Lori to read those. Oh, wait a second, Lori. There you go.
Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Lori and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Lori.
The 12 traditions. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thank you, Lori. Well done. Welcome to your international debut of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, our speaker today will be sharing for approximately 1 hour. It's my honor and privilege to introduce the speaker tonight, who's my new friend that I just met earlier this afternoon from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Please help me welcome Don C.
Well, good evening, everyone. First, my name is Don C. I am an alcoholic. I also am a member of the Mohican Nation. Our nation is a clan system, so part of my introduction is, and I was born for the Turtle Clan on my mother's side. Our tribe is a matriarchal tribe, and my Indian name is Tantanka Wambly. That name was given to me by the elders when I was given this responsibility to keep this ceremonial hoop of 100 eagle feathers. It was something that was in the forecast for around 400 years. Who the heck would ever think they would give that responsibility to a drunk? But we'll see how that story comes out. I have 9 children altogether, 6 girls and 3 boys. And out of that, we have 20 grandchildren. I had 21, but lost 1 grandchild last year to a heroin. But she left us with a baby, so we got we kind of have her present, you know, in our home anyway. So that was really nice, but it's pretty tough. But all my children are now sober, and all my 20 grandchildren, they don't drink, they don't drug, they're just are just a normal family. We're not like Haji and Harriet, you know. We fight and we have to kiss and make up and things like that. But this is a family disease. This alcoholism is, and I sometimes have asked myself, you know, how was it I got into sobriety? Because I was not trying to pray to quit drinking. I didn't give a crap no more. I was just doing the deal. I lost everything that my grandpa told me I was supposed to love and take care of, and I chose alcohol over all of it. And I think what happened was, I believe my family was praying for me. I'm pretty sure that was going on, and I believe I had divine intervention. I think the creator somehow was looking down and said that fool Indian ain't gonna make it. I gotta give him some help. But the most visible thing that I saw that got me sober was at the end time of my drinking, my wife at that time found Al-Anon. And I remember the weekend that she figured out what Al-Anon was about because my life changed like you can't believe. She, there was no more enabling, no more arguing, and I just couldn't believe that. She joined some kind of a cult group or something. But anyway, I think the Al-Anon was more visible to me than God and my relatives. So I'm grateful to Al-Anon for helping get that message to help me get sober. So I want to thank you, Al-Anon. And I would like to just also thank you for asking me to share my story. I doubt that I'm going to tell you anything that you don't already know. Some years ago, I was asked to do a training in Alaska for a group of their village young people. And so it was a 3-day training. So we went through the first day and it went really fine. And it come time to quit the training of the first day. And in Alaska, they have 2 clans. One clan's the Eagle Clan, and then they have a Raven Clan. And they have clans under that, but those are the 2 main ones. So just before we quit, one of the young guys stood up and he said, I want all of the Eagles to stand up. So they all stood up, and then he proceeded to tell me what he heard that day that went on. And I thought, that's kind of cool. Then the young girl stood up and she said, all the Ravens stand up. And then she did a similar thing. She said, this is what we heard you say. And that night I went for lunch with dinner with the sponsor, and I asked him, I said, that wasn't on the agenda. I said, why did those young guys do that thing that they did? And she said, well, that come from the old days. She said, when a guest would come to the village, what they wanted that guest to know that their words that they spoke didn't fall to the ground. And she said, so they train those young ones at the end of everything when a guest comes to say, this is what we heard you say. And I just thought that was so beautiful and so respectful. I never heard such a thing. So that's why I say I don't believe I'm going to tell you anything that you don't already know, because I'm going to just tell you what I heard you guys tell me, because I could not quit drinking on my own. But I come to you guys, and you're the guys told me, so I'm going to tell you, I want you to know that your words didn't fall to the ground. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. And so one of the things that you told me was I should just tell my story, what happened, what it was like, what it's like now. And so maybe the best way to do that is in our culture, one of the things you're not supposed to do is take credit for something that isn't yours. So if somebody gives you a song that they got from somewhere and they sing it, then before you sing it, you have to say, this song was given to me by, and then you say who it was. Or if you have this gift or something you wear and somebody says it's really nice, then you got to say, well, this was gifted to me by so-and-so. And so I'm going to tell you a story, and this story isn't mine. This story I heard at a meeting, and then when it was done, I connected to that story so strongly that it changed my life. It's like one of those stories. And when I come into AA, I didn't get it at first. I slept a number of times. I just couldn't grasp what was going on here. And so one night I was having a cup of coffee with this guy, and he said, hey, there's this Indian guy speaking up to Estes Park, which is a little city outside of Denver, Colorado. He said, let's go up there and listen to him. So I said, okay. So we went up there, and I walked in this room, and here this guy sat at the table. And one thing I noticed, he had the bluest eyes that I ever saw anyone have. Just blue eyes. It was just like that. Then in front of him, he had this book, this big book, and it was held together with rubber bands. It was torn apart. It was coffee stained. It looked like it went through World War II or something. The book was just an awful shape, but that was a sign probably that book was well used. And so I walked in there and I looked at him and we made some kind of eye contact, and something transferred from me to him. Some kind of connectedness happened, and it was forever. And so when he told his story, then here's the one I asked if I could use that story, because it was my story. So it explains a lot about what happened to me with my drinking. I was born on the Mohican Reservation in Wisconsin, and I had not touched alcohol until I was a senior in high school. I was so involved with my grandfather. We hunted and we trapped and we did all these. We was busy because we lived off the land pretty much. And so I was kind of raised in a pretty traditional way. So in this story, there was this boxing match. And in one corner in the white trunks was alcohol, and the other corner in the black trunks, that was me. And so we got up there in that arena, and people were coming in to the arena, and they wanted to watch this fight. And always like in a matches like this, the very front row, they put a ribbon on it that says reserved. And that's reserved for your family, because they want your family to have the best view. Nothing can block to see them what's going on. So my family, they came in and they all sat down there in the front row, and there was something about that alcohol when I would look at him across that ring. Between our eyes, something connected. I was really attached. I was attached to him. There was just something felt very, very familiar to him. And he had this smile on his face, was just made it feel very friendly. So anyway, got time for the fight to begin, and the referee called us out there, and because there's some rules when you fight out here. He said there's no hitting below the belt. When I say break up, and you give all these rules. And so me and the alcohol, we both agreed, and we punched our gloves together and went back in the corner, and the bell rung. And we come out, and first 2 rounds, I went bad. It was, jumping around and punching around, and it wasn't too bad. But somewhere it seemed about the 3rd round, I must have just moved the wrong way, and the alcohol just really stung me really good in my eye, and I was surprised. It hurt. And so I kind of looked at the alcohol, and he said, that was a lucky punch. He said, you can whip me, and restored my confidence, because I knew that was just a lucky punch. So we were boxing around, and somewhere the next round or so, I kind of zigzagged the wrong way, and the alcohol really stung me again. And I looked at him, he said, that was a lucky punch, you can whip me. And so the next round or so, the alcohol started hitting below the belt, and it started doing things. It wasn't breaking when the referee said to break, and it seemed like this thing was going on. It wasn't the way it's supposed to turn out. And so somewhere when he got about round 6 or 7 or so, my eyes were selling shut, and I was bruised all over, and I was hurting. And I thought to myself, you have to get a plan. This isn't going to be as easy as you thought. So you better get a plan if you're going to do this. So I had this little plan in my mind, and I would get out there for another round, and alcohol would just pounce and kick and punch and do all these things. And I couldn't wait for that bell to ring so I could go sit down and get a break. So when I sit down, and I was just, all I could think about is I look over there and he'd just be smiling. And I was just really, really hurting, trying to figure out what in the heck is going on here. And as I'm sitting there, I felt this tug on my arm. And I looked down there, and there was my son. And he come up to me and he said, he said, Dad, he said, Mom says to tell you to climb down. He said, come on, let's just all go home. He said, we're all worried about what's going on with you. Let's just all go home. Please, he said, let's go home, Dad. And I looked at him and I said, son, I said, I want you to go back and you sit down and you get your brothers and sisters together. And I said, there's an old Indian trick that I know that I'm going to use on this alcohol. You just go sit down there just one round. I said, you watch what your daddy's going to do. So he went back there and I walked out there, and what happened really was alcohol just put the boots to me. By the time he was done with me, I was laying on my stomach on the floor. I couldn't even hardly move, and he just kept screaming, you know, you can whip me. And I kept thinking that I could. So I bell rung, I crawled back to that stool, and I'm sitting there and I'm really desperately trying to get a plan together because things is not going very, very good. And so as I'm sitting there trying to get my plan together, I felt a tug on my arm again. This time I looked down there and here's my young daughter. Got that long black hair, got this big old little kid's eyes, you know, and her lips trembling. And she said, Daddy, she said, Mama says to tell you that if you don't come down, she says, we're going to leave. She said, we can't watch it no more. And she's just crying. She's begging, please, Dad, please, please, please. And I said, you go back and I said, there's one more trick that I got to try. I said, you go back there and you tell your brothers and sisters to watch what's going to happen. And so this time I got out there and I wasn't watching to see if they left or not, but they did. When I got back to the stool after that round, that whole row was empty. They was gone, and I went out there for the next round, and I could only crawl out on my stomach. The alcohol just put the boots to me, kicking me in the head and in the back and everything. And I finally had a moment of clarity. I said, you know, this alcohol is lying. I said, I gotta get out of here. So I crawled out that arena and I went home, and I didn't hardly sleep that first night, but I woke up in the morning and I was trying to get a plan together, and I said, all right, I said, you're going to have to change your diet. You're going to have to eat different, and you better do some exercising. And I went down to Barnes & Noble and I got me a self-help book. And then I bought some Nakai flute music and I got a candle. And I said, I'm going to get my shit together. And so I did that for a month or so, and I was really feeling good. I was back in shape. I was eating lettuce and kale and, you know, and listening to music and everything. And I got thinking, I thought, you know, now I'm in better shape. I think that alcohol is not going to hurt me this time when I go back in there. I'm not as naive as I was. So I said, I'm going to go back. And so I went back into the arena. And I thought maybe alcohol wouldn't be there, but there I was, standing in that corner, hands on the ropes, and I shouted, alcohol, I said, I'm back. He said, I knew you would be. And so I said, okay, I got something I want to try on you. And so I went up there by the arena, and I was climbing through the ropes, and he didn't even let me get in there and get ready. He just put the boots to me right there on the ropes. Fell back down, jumped down, and stopped all hell over me. And it wasn't 9 rounds. It was just one time. Just one more drink, and that's what he did. So I crawled out that arena, and I went home and didn't sleep very good at night. And I woke up in the morning, and I thought, you went to the wrong bookstore. You got to go to a different bookstore. And so off I went to a different darn bookstore, got me a different self-help book and different flute music and different exercises. And then, would you know, I would think, you know, I'm in different shape now. I bet you the alcohol, back in the arena I went, and when I went in the arena, the alcohol wasn't there. Where it was behind the door. And when I stepped in that arena, I didn't even get up to the boxing match. He just put the dukes to me right there. And that was when I dropped. And I had another moment of clarity. I knew the alcohol was lying. And I understood this one line in the big book where it says you must have you must commit to your innermost self that you have this disease, alcoholism. And that's what I was able to do. And that was on August 10th, 1978. And I crawled out that arena, and I didn't go to no bookstore. I came to you guys. I knew about AA, but I had tried probably actively tried for 5 or 6 years to quit drinking, and all it did, it just got worse. And so I went down, and I knew where the meeting was, and it was in Colorado Springs. And the street was a very wide street, so the cars, they parked at a diagonal. And so I went there in the afternoon, so I come down there a little bit before meeting time, and there was one slot right in front of that door that went up the steps to the AA meeting. And so I said to myself, I said, I'm gonna go around that block one time. If that slot is there, then I'm gonna mean the sign I'm supposed to go in there. Because everybody seemed to be parking on the other side of the road. And so I went around this block, and that slot was right there, and I stopped. And I thought to myself, I said, okay, I said, I'm going to just go around this block just one more time to doubly make sure that it's a sign. So I went around that block, and I had my foot on the brake and on the gas pedal, and I went just slow as I could going around that darn block. And sure enough, I come around there, and that slot was still there. So I drove in there because I think it was a sign. So I went up the steps, and I could hear people talking, and so I thought I'm going to kind of scope this out. So I peeked in the doorway to the room, and I looked in there, and I says, oh my God, this is all white people in here. That's all there was in that darn meeting. And I didn't know till later on in working the steps, I was very prejudiced. And it was really me, you know, not them, but I didn't know that at the time. And so I said, these white people ain't going to teach me nothing. So I started to leave, except that meeting had a greeter. And there was a great big white guy. And it seemed like what happened was he must have had like one of those shepherd's hooks. He slapped a cup of coffee in my hand and put that hook around my neck and slid me right into that group. And there I sat at that table with all these white guys. So I was too embarrassed to get up and leave. So I said, well, I'm not going to tell them nothing. That's what I'm going to do. I ain't going to say anything. So they went around introducing themselves like they're supposed to, and they come to me, I won't say anything. So they waited a little while, and finally the guy next to me, he just started to keep it going. And so I sat in that meeting, and I was really irritated about a couple of things in that meeting. One was, what really irritated me is as they spoke, they was telling on themselves about that they were selfish, they were self-righteous, and they were judgmental. And where I come from, you would never tell nobody stuff like that. That's none of nobody's business. Plus, it makes you look weak. And here they were just talking like that. That irritated me. And the other thing irritated me was the laughter. And it wasn't like a he laugh. It was belly laughing. It was deep down. They would just crack up over the stupidest things, or what it seemed to me. And I was just, because there was nothing funny as far as I could see about life. And here these guys is laughing. But the thing that happened in that meeting was, I don't remember what they talked about, but there was a feeling in there. There was this something. As I sat there from those white guys, I could feel this feeling. It took me about a year before I finally found out that that's that feeling you get when you feel like you belong. That's that feeling that you get when you come home. But I didn't know that at the time because I'd never thought I belonged to a circle of white guys, or I would call that place home. But that's what it was, because they had a disease just like me. They were drunks, I was drunks, and I went there and I related, I connected to what those crazy guys were saying. I thought I was the only one did crazy stuff. I wasn't. They did crazy stuff too, and lived and, you know, things like that. So I continued to go back to those meetings, and I just sat there and I just listened. And I got a hold of that big book that they talked about. and they told me there was instructions in that book. And I looked all over. I paged through that book from beginning to end, and I could never find no instructions that was in it. In fact, that book was just boring to me. And so I went to a little bit more meetings, and I found out one thing I needed to do was to get a sponsor. And I knew what that was because at home, they always say you should always have an elder in your life. You should have that person that you go to. And so I started to watch for that type of a person. And you'd hear people in meetings, they say, well, if you want what we have, you know, and I would say, man, I don't want what most of you have. You guys is just really sick, you know. So, but there was one man there, and I watched, I would watch him, how he listened, and I watched how he interfaced it. And he was kind of he was a rough talking guy. He's about maybe 6'5", 6'6", big tall guy. He was an attorney, and there's no doubt that he was an alcoholic. I didn't say, I wonder if he's one. He was all scarred up in his face. I think he was hit with an ugly stick when he was a baby because he was not a pretty alcoholic. But anyway, I asked him if he would work with me, and he said yes. And so we sat down there at the table, and he started to tell me about this program. And one of the things he did was he grabbed a big book, and he opened it up, and he put 164 pages between his hands like this. And he said, if you are willing to do what's in these 164 pages, he said, AA ain't about slipping. That's not, you hear that in the meetings, but that's not what AA is about. If you are willing to do exactly what's in these 164 pages, he said, you will never have to drink again. And I think for the first time in a long time, something was welling up inside of me that I wanted to cry. I wouldn't cry, but I could have that feeling start to come up because at the end of my drinking, every time I drank, I messed with death. It wasn't just a bad night. I continually, I lost everything that I was supposed to take care of. But every time I drank, I was messing with death. That's how it was. I could not quit. And so he said that he would work with me. And so we went through this big book. But one thing he did is by then I had moved to Denver. My job transferred up there. And he grabbed a schedule of meetings and he circled 6 nights in a row. He said, these are the meetings you are to attend. Sunday night, if you want to go to one, you can choose, but these are the ones I'm choosing them for you. So step meeting, a traditions meeting, a big book meeting. There was one meeting where there was only old guys there. And they had been in the meeting so long was they had their own chair. So if you went in there and you sat in their chair, they said, get out of that chair, that's Robbie's chair. Oh, excuse me. Go sit on that bench over there. So anyway, I had to go to that meeting where these old guys were. And I was to go to these meetings and I was to say, my name is Don, I'm alcoholic. And then he said, shut up. He said, you don't be sharing. He said, you got nothing to share that is going to help anybody. So just shut up until you take a third step. Once you take the third step, now you got the Creator involved in your life. He said, now you can share. But until then, he said, just shut up. And so we went through and he was, I called him my head sponsor. I had 3 people took me through the work initially. One was Frank McKibben, his name is. He's gone to the other world now. He was the attorney, and he was very precise by that big book. He would not let you talk about or even use the 12 and 12. He said, Bill Wilson wrote that book when Timothy O'Leary was doing drugs. He said, don't be using that book. He said, he wrote that book to make money. So he said, what you got to have is in that big book. And he said, if there's something in that big book that you don't like, he said, I need you to know you're wrong, the book's right. So he said, don't go thinking that you found a mistake you see in this book. And when we went through it, if there was a question in that book, I had to answer the question. If there was a must, I think he said there was 72 musts in the big book or something like that. So he knew this stuff. And how he got to be that way was when he was around, I think about 7 years sober, he got mad at AA or something. So he took his group and he had it meet in his house, and they went underground for 7 years. You couldn't, no, you know how they say if the hand of AA, he wouldn't even let you come to his house. He said, "This is my meeting." He said, I don't want you here. So they went underground for 7 years and they just tore that big book apart. They did group inventories. They just ripped that book apart from beginning to end, a group of them. And they call it the Monday night group. And then when they surfaced, when he came back out and made their group public, then the local people in Denver, they called, AA sometimes like Indians were always naming somebody. You always got a name, like a naming ceremony. So they called that group the God Squad. That was a nickname for that group. They called them the God Squad. But anyway, when they came out, they was very, very effective in doing the work and doing the steps and going through that. So I was fortunate enough to go through that. But it was very precise by that book. And so when I would have a problem, I'd call him like that. He'd say, chapter 5. And I'd call him another problem, chapter 2. And what I found out was he was just lying to me. What I was looking for, I would go and be reading that over and over and over, trying to find a darn answer. And he said, I just made that stuff up. He said, I don't really know where the answer was in that book. But that's how he got me, I guess, to go to that big book. So anyway, we went through the work that way, and it was just, I had never been around anything where you had to start to look at yourself. And so I went through that, and I had a lot of problems initially with step 3. I was in the residential school. And it was not always a pleasant experience. I had a real bad concept of a God, of the higher power. And then I come here and you guys say I got to turn my life over to it. It was so, whoa, you crazy? Why would I do that? But I worked through that stuff. I went to meetings where people explained their experience with that step, and I got it. So I went through that, and the way that he was is you call him a sponsor until he took you through all 12 steps. Then after that, you was friends. So then I was expected to correct him. If he was off track, he would correct me. He said, I don't need somebody worshiping me, calling me a sponsor. He said, I need somebody saving my rear. And I'm doing something wrong that somebody will tell me. And so that was how that was. Well, one of the things he set it up was I was to go through the work every year prior to my AA birthday. So the next year I had a man take me through the work. His name was Don Pritz. And so I called him my heart sponsor. So he was, we went through that book with him, and it was way different than Frank. Frank, what he would say if I talked to him about like how I felt about something, he says, the big book don't talk about your feelings. It says, when you become irritated or doubtful, you don't ask God to direct your feelings. He says, you ask God to direct your thinking. And so that's how precise that he was. But then when I went through the work with Don Pritz, then he was about the feelings. It was about the connectedness of things. So we went through the work in that way. And by the second year, I was I was not able to see my children for quite a while. And then I got to where I could see them again. And then I got to where I even took them Christmas shopping, on my own. And that was really good by the end of the second year of sobriety. So when I got about 3 years, a little over 3 years sober, something went wrong. And I go to my home group, and my home group was just stupid. And we had guys there would tell the same story that they've been telling all 3 years that I was going there. I could have told their story word for word what they said. And they would say it just like it was the first time they told it. And then I was critical. Who was chairing the meeting? Who said this? And who was sponsoring who? And it was just driving me crazy. And my big book was so darn underlined, I couldn't underline anymore. So the book wasn't any helpful. And then doing my 11th step, in the morning, I felt it was like a rosary. I would open up to page 86 and go, look at 24 hours ahead, ask God to direct your thing, your divorce yourself and self. It was like doing a rosary, going down, doing the beads. I was just doing that 11th step in the morning, so I could say I did it, but I wasn't really doing anything with it. And so my kids were saying, Dad, go to a meeting. It was just, I was just out of, something went wrong. And so I had this feeling I was going to drink. That's how it seemed. It's that the old tape was playing. So by then I had met this man. His name was Johnny Looking Cloud. He was sober for a long time. He was a Lakota guy. He was in AA for a long time. So in our culture, when you have like an elder like that, you have to take them tobacco, like a tobacco as a gift. And if they accept the gift, then they'll work with you. And so I took him tobacco, and I went up to his place, and we went in his backyard. He said, "What's going on there?" You call me nephew. Nephew, what's going on? And I just started just talking, blah, 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 and he just grabbed a piece of wood and he just carved on it. And so when I was done, after quite a while, he said, how long are you sober exactly? So I told him, I think it was like 3 years and 3 months. And he looked at me and he said, oh, he said, you're right where you're supposed to be. Now, when you're in a bag of crap, the last thing you want to hear is you're right where you're supposed to be, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. To hell you don't, because that's why so there's some things I never really believed right away. We're taking a day at a time. You take it a day at a time. I'm in a crisis. I need an answer right now. So anyway, he said to me, he said, we were watching you when you came in. He said, we didn't think you would make it. He said, you were so hateful. You were so angry and such a temper. And he said, we watched and we said, he's not gonna do it. You just don't have it. And so, but he said, something happened and you did. And so he said, this is what you're missing in your program. And he took a stick and he drew this big circle in the ground in his backyard. And he said, when you was raised by your grandpa, and he said, you knew all the ceremonies, you knew those things that he taught you about the plants and the earth and everything. He said, then you started drinking. And he said, you left the earth, you drink your way out in space. He said, there's nothing on out there where you were. He said, you were headed for death. Then he said, when you do step 1, admit that stops you from drifting. And he said, those 12 steps is 12 gentle ways that takes you from outer space and it brings you back to be in harmony with the earth, like it was in how it's supposed to be. He said, because inside of you, you have a blueprint of how the human being is supposed to be. And he said, we watched you, and he said, so this is what you need to know. Everything on the earth has a season, has a cycle. And you went through cycle of life, baby, youth, adult, elder, season, spring, summer, fall, winter. And he would point around that circle, all these things, and he said, sobriety in your recovery travels in a circle or a cycle. And he said, just like an oak tree standing out in the forest, he said, the time comes in the spring when a sap starts to flow in that oak tree. But the oak tree doesn't know it. It's a life force. and it's spreading through the branches and everything. And the oak tree, if you look at it, it looks dead. He said, and that's how we watch when you come into AA. You were coming in, we didn't think you would make it, but there was a life force that was flowing in you. You had something coming from the spiritual world. Then he said, during that first year, he said, just like a tree in the springtime, you get these little buds on all your branches. The little buds all over the place. And that's when you come into AA and you're going, aha, you get the one-liners in AA and you, oh, I didn't know that. And but as you do that, then you start to bud that first year. Then he says you go into the second year and you go through the work again, then those buds unfold. And he said it's like that summer, that oak tree, all of a sudden it turns in from a budding thing and it's got this shape, it's got this shape, it's got this picture, it knows who it is. Then he said, spend some time in that, and then the fall time comes. So all of a sudden the oak tree gets red and orange and fruits and nuts, and the tourists are taking pictures, and you by the time you're in that third year, you think, I have arrived. God is good. I want sobriety to stay like this forever. Don't nobody touch nothing. Just like that oak tree thinks that I'm so beautiful right now. But then the oak tree standing out there, then all of a sudden the cycle changes a little bit. So a gust of wind comes along, temperature changes a little bit, some of the leaves fall off. And the oak tree is thinking, it's no big deal, I got a lot of leaves. Week or so goes by, temperature changes a little bit, gust of wind comes along, and more leaves fall off. Now that oak tree is saying, I think I better go to more meetings. I think I better start reading that big book in the morning and calling my sponsor more often. So he does that, and temperature changes a little bit, gust of wind comes along, and about half the leaf goes away. And so that oak tree is thinking, look, I'm going to meetings, I'm reading the book, I'm doing all this stuff, and still the leaves are falling off. And but the only thing spiritual that oak tree can now think is just shit, because it knows all the other leaves are going to go away too. And sure enough, all the leaves go away. And so Johnny Looking-Cloud, he said, this is how it is. He said, you're in the winter season. He said, spring, summer, fall, winter. In that winter season, he said, there's 3 questions you can't answer. First question you can't answer is, why am I? He said, so you'll sit in a meeting, you'll go, I don't even know why I am anymore. You lose your purpose. Then he says, you'll come to this, the second question you can't answer is, who am I? Then you go to another meeting, you go, I don't even know who I am no more. So you'll state what's going on. Then the third question is, you don't know where you're going. And he said, that's why your meetings got dumb, the book didn't make sense, your sponsor got stupid. He said, there was nothing wrong with them. He said, you're in the winter time. That's why I say it's exactly where you're supposed to be. He said, that's a part of how the cycle is. You're supposed to lose, doesn't the oak tree need to lose its leaves so it can be the next shape for the next time that it grows like this? He said, that's the way recovery is. What if you got in recovery and just believe the same old stuff forever? Well, he said, the Creator takes stuff away, makes the leaves fall away so that you do this search again. And so what I thought was going on is I thought that I was doing something wrong. I examined, I was doing the work, I was doing the steps, I was doing that, and I couldn't think of another thing I was supposed to be doing. I thought I'm doing something wrong. The other thing I thought was, as I said God and shit in the same sentence, and I was being punished. I said I should have never said those 2 words in that same sentence. That's what I thought was happening. I remember I was driving from this place going back home, and I started to cry. I thought I had done something wrong, and I didn't. I was just in the winter time. And he said, that'll happen again years 7 to 8. That'll be a winter time. 11 to 12. That'll be winter time. 15 to 16. That'll be winter time. 19 to 20. And because I talk about the season, sometimes there's people who want to know about it. And so there is a videotape on the YouTube. You can go to a site called wellbriety.com, and it's called Seasons of Recovery. Or just go to YouTube and type in seasons of recovery. And that explains it up to 64 years of the about the seasons of recovery. But that just really made sense to me. So now I know when it's 7 to 8, I knew it was going to come, but I wasn't panicking because I had done nothing wrong. Yeah, and what they showed me was how do you work a set of steps in the wintertime? You work steps spring, summer, fall one way when you're growing, and there's one way working steps when you let go. And preparing yourself, you see, for that next spring. So then what he said, the next thing that you need to do, nephew, is he said, I watched and he said, you're calling this a white man's program. He said, it's not a white man's program. He said, this is a spiritual program given by God. And Johnny Looking-Cloud was a devout Catholic, and he also was a devout traditional man. But he didn't see it as one or the other. He had grown where it was just all one for him. He didn't have it mixed up like me. I was going boarding school, residential school, and this, he wasn't there. And so he said, what you need to do next is, he said, I want you to put the 12 steps in a circle. And he said, put steps 1, 2, 3 in the east, like a new sun, new day, new beginning. That is the direction where you find your relationship with the Creator. That's what steps 1, 2, 3 does. Put that in the east. Then he said, now that's like the sun. Okay, you got it. Now you're hooked into that power. Then he said, you put steps 4, 5, and 6 in the south, the inventory steps. And he said, that's where you find your relationship with yourself. As you do that work, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. Then he says, step 7, 8, 9 is in the west. This is where you make your amends. This is where you establish yourself with your relatives. You connect back to every amends, put you back is a connecting to people that you hurt, setting things right. Let go, forgiveness, let it go. Sunset. And then 10, 11, 12 is in the north. And now you're back in harmony with the earth. It's about learning and growing, being back, you see how it's supposed to be. And I remember when he took me through the steps, he said, the steps are all interconnected, they're not separate. It's all interconnected like a web. And he said, step 2, for example, it sets your intent for step 12. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves. Then he said, step 12 is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. He said, step 2 is the intent for step 12. Then the rest of the steps removes. So it's very important, he said, that you do step 2. Then what he did was, is he said, I'm going to help you do something a little bit advanced. He said, but he said, I want you to take a look at doing this work. How do you came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could? How do you think the Creator is going to have you be? He said, I want you to take a look at this a long time. So we had a number, maybe 7, 8 talks about this, about what it was going to, because I didn't get what he was talking about. And I said, okay, I said, in my recovery, what I want to be, because I was angry, I was hateful, you know, all those things was going on. So for me to sort through what he was talking about was not easy. But I come to him and I said, I want to be a peaceful warrior. That's what I want to do. I want to be a warrior, but I want to have peace. I want to know, how do I live peaceful through everything? If somebody is all upset, let me be the calm one. I said, this is what I want to do. So he said, it's going to take maybe 7, 8 years, he said, to get you there. So he said, every year when you do step 2, you come to me and I'm going to give you an assignment. And I said, okay. So he said, this is your first assignment. When you come to step 2, he said, I want you to give up the need to understand why. And I looked at him, I says, well, why? And he just grabbed his head like this and, you know, he's just mumbling to himself and he walked away. And so that was what I had to do, because I thought everything. Why, you know? And he would make fun of me sometimes. He'd dance like an Indian, but he'd do a why dance. He'd go, why? And he'd just dance around, you know, just to tweak of my jaws or whatever. But every year I went to him when step 2, and he gave me another assignment to work on for 1 year. He said it's a long-term thing, you see, to do that. So then when we got through the steps, step 4, what he explained to me was I knew to put my name, to put the name in the first column, what they did, and then how I was affected in the third column. And I always struggled with that inventory because I thought I was writing the truth about me. And he said, no. He said, you're not writing the truth about you, you're writing the truth about the lie. He said, when your dad did this and made you feel like you were not worthy, that's not the truth about you, that's the lie. He said, this step is helping you to see the lie, not the truth, and then the character defects. So when I come out of when I do the 5th step, I burn my medicine. I burn sage, flat cedar, I burn sage or the cedar, because all during my 5th step, I'm burning that medicine as I'm able to tell to the other person, to the creator myself, the exact nature of my wrongs. I use the medicine because the creator is in the medicine. It's the same that's in me is the same as in that plant. And this is the stuff that he taught me. And then when I do step 6 and 7, he showed me how to make a tobacco tie. It's a red cloth like this. And then I was to take it and put tobacco, a little pinch of tobacco in it. And then I was to put a rope around it, a little tie, and then make a tobacco tie, one for each character defect. This is what I had to do. And as I'm putting the tobacco in, I'm telling the creator, I want you to take this, I'm willing to have you take this defect character, all while I'm making this tobacco tie. Then I got them like in a little bundle. And then when I do step 7, I light a fire. And so I take it one by one and I say, I'm ready for you to have this defect character. Sometimes I'll make hot rocks, but I'll put it on there and I wait until it bursts into flames. It's like, seems like then the creator says, okay, I'm gonna take that, my son. I'm gonna take that one from you. And it just does something to you. It's just like when you watch, you just go poof. You just go, man, this is really cool. And so that was the way that I learned the culture. I put the steps in a circle, and I started to learn how to bring the culture into it. It wasn't a violation of AA. And what I found was this, I'll close with 2 short things, but there's a man named Eugene B. He was from a tribe in Wisconsin. Lakota Ray was the name of the reservation. And when he was early in his sobriety, he wanted to go to Founders Day. So him and some other guys got in a little car and they drove down to Founders Day. And when they got there, Bill Wilson was standing by the tombstone of Dr. Bob. And he said, buses were coming up and he was standing around and he said, before things got going, he said, Bill Wilson looked over at him and he said, you're a Native American, aren't you? And he said he looked around and he said, oh my God, Bill Wilson's talking to me. And he said, well, yeah, I am. He said, I'm a sober one too. And so Bill Wilson said, I want you to wait till everybody's gone. There's something I want you to know. And so he said he was so excited. He didn't hear anything that went on because he couldn't believe he was going to meet Bill Wilson. So everybody left and the 2 of them are standing there by the tombstone. And he said, Bill Wilson said, he said, what I want you to know is, he said, when we put this program together, it didn't take off really easily at first. And he said, these 12 steps, and he said, what made the 12 steps work is, he said, we met with a group of Native elders. He said, we borrowed their spirituality from those elders, and that's what we were able to add to the 12 steps to get it going. He said, I just wanted you to know that. If you do go to that one website I told you about, that tape is on there if you want to hear exactly how he said how Bill Wilson said it. That's the way it was. So I just want to close with this is I took these 12 steps to the elders. And what they told us, I was trying to explain to them that this is a white man's program and things that we went to, and when we got done, they said, tell us about these 12 steps the best that you can. So we just explained them a little bit. When we got done, they said, no, they said, that's not a white man's program. They said, that's a spiritual process that's been in our culture for a long time. When we'll get in trouble, get off track, there was the ceremonies and things that we did that had the order that you're talking about. He said, it's a natural order of healing people. He says, very, very good. So what I've learned is, what I do personally, I made a commitment that these 12 steps of AA is going to be my way of life. If somebody gives me a fancy book and says, you got to do this, this is really fancy, this is really good. If I can't reconcile it in those 12 steps, I don't do it. That's, other people can do what they want. But they told me that if I did exactly what was in those 164 pages, I wouldn't have to drink. And so it's been true for 41 years now. And I've gone through divorce, and I've gone through death of relatives and job loss, all sorts of different things. And the thing that you guys told me was, you said, you don't have to, you can stay sober going through those types of things. You do not have to, you don't have to drink through that. And so that's the way that it's been for me. Not always easy. I think this time right now that we're seeing protests and we're seeing a virus, and we're seeing some of the politics going on in here in the States is, it's challenging sometimes to do this work. And what I found for me is when it gets like that, I go through that work again. I go through it to say, is the magic still there? Can I get clarity if I go through these 12 steps that will help me come out of this type of thing? So I'll just close with this prayer that I heard. Seems like everything that I know of as any value, I learned from you guys. I would say that the 12 steps made me understand my own culture. I didn't know about the ceremony and the depth and all those things that happened. When I got into the 12 steps, then all of a sudden I started to say, oh, this is what the culture means. This is what the ceremony means. So in this prayer, it says to the Creator, it says I want to thank you for what you've given me. And then the next line, it says, I want to thank you for what you've taken from me. And then the next line is, I want to thank you for what you left me. And what I got left was, over this Zoom, I can feel connected. I belong to you guys. That's how it feels. I look at each one of you, and I know you don't feel like a stranger to me. You feel like when it's allowed, we could just give one another a big old hug. That's how it seems to me, and that would be okay, even though I see you for that first time. So that's what I got left with. And I want to thank that interpreter. Thank you so much for interpreting it. We have a lot of Native people that are deaf, and they have problems with alcohol. And when they see these speakers like this and they understand what's going on, thank you for having the insight of having the interpreter. And I hope I hope you sleep well tonight, because I know that's a hard job just doing that whole hour, by yourself. So with that, I'll just close, and thank you all very much for allowing me to tell you what you taught to me. Thank you.
Wow. Don, I am speechless. I connected so much with everything that you said. And I thank you so much for your message. I'm so grateful that I have your phone number, because I need more, and I will be calling you. But the connectedness that you talk about is real. I feel it too. And I thank you for giving us your wisdom, your experience, and your knowledge of the program. And if we could just give him another hand. Thank you so much, Don. Fabulous talk. I'm all beklempt. When you talk about the seasons of recovery, it really hit me, because I've been through those and I go through those. I'm just coming out of one. I had no idea why, and now I know. So thank you for that, especially from me. I have Roger is going to read for us A Vision for You.
My name is Roger. I'm an alcoholic, member of the beautiful Movement Group. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Don, for that. That was excellent. It really touched the heart. That's a good. I enjoyed your talk very much, and I'm sure most of the people here did too. Okay, our book. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you could do each day for the man who is still sick. The answer will come if your house is in order. But obviously, if you cannot transmit something you haven't got, see to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of the past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. And, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge through the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Roger.